just starting to recognize some people in the crowd. Obviously, this is something very unusual for me. I've never done this before. At this very moment, I want to tell you that today, at this moment, I declare my candidacy for the 26th Congressional District. I want to thank you all for being here today. My supporters, those who are looking for someone to support, members of the media, my campaign team, and a special thanks to my friends and family, my wife, Natalie, my boys. I want to begin with a short biography about myself. Understanding my path and my life, you'll get a grasp of who I am and where I'm going. My story is very similar to many of you in the audience. My story is typical of millions of immigrants that come to this country for the right reasons, to do the right thing. It took 16 years for me to stand before the flag while wearing the uniform of the United States Marine Corps as a young lance corporal. I had tears that day and goosebumps when I was sworn in as an American citizen. On that day, I considered myself a born-again American. I was born in communist Cuba, arrived in the United States in 1970. No less than a week later, my dad, who fought in the Cuban Revolution and did not want to be part of Miami politics at the time, was a depressed young man. I believe he was in his mid-20s. He left his country, he left his family behind, his friends. He was not happy. He looked at a map, and I remember this day, and he saw the word Los Angeles. And he said, hey, they must speak Spanish in that city. We're out of here. And a week or two later, I have no idea, don't even remember the trip, but we arrived in LA. And we arrived directly across the street from MacArthur Park at a hotel. My mother was crying, freaking out because of the surroundings and the conditions that we landed in. She was begging my father to return to Miami, and he would not have it. Within a couple of weeks, he got a job as a janitor, cleaning banks in the evenings. He had an assistant, a 6-year-old kid. That was my first job. Cleaning trash cans, ashtrays. As a child, I worked in gas stations, body shops, cleaned the streets for no money. Many other odd jobs, but my first official job was at McDonald's on Western in Hollywood Division as a 15-year-old kid. I was raised in this area commonly known as Rampart Division, Rampart. By anyone's account, this is the inner city. At first, in the early 70s, it was a working class neighborhood where whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians lived together. But something happened along the way. It was a very fast transition. At first the whites left, then our black neighbors, and then most of the Hispanic families also left. And we were left behind. It was as if people disappeared. At that time is when I started to become witness to what gangs and drug violence does to a community and families. I bore witness to the removal of the human spirit by government handouts, the excuses created by poverty to continue in poverty. I was victimized by gang members for the color of my skin. Sorry. However, I also was inspired by hard-working immigrants that we lived in an amazing country with the freedoms to push forward and succeed in life despite our origins. never to be envious of others who have achieved success, and to push forward with our own dreams and objectives. That here in this great nation, anything was possible if you were willing to work hard and stay the course. Some of those people are actually here tonight. They had no idea they were my secret mentors, but they're here tonight, and you know who you are. My parents were never jealous of those friends who left our neighborhood, that took risk and opportunities that came upon them and left the neighborhood for a better life and opportunity and a safer place. Instead, they would say to me and my sister, learn from them. See what they do. Never be envious of others and never give up. Seems like we've lost that in the last 2 decades in this country. We created a culture of envy, and we need to combat that. My parents were never able to initiate and take the risks required to push forward. However, they made sure my sister and I pushed towards those opportunities. So uniquely American. I joined the United States Marine Corps in 1983. I was honorably discharged as an E7, a gunnery sergeant. As a staff sergeant, I graduated from the Navy Marine Corps Intelligence Training Center in Virginia. I was number 2 in my class upon graduation. In 1986, I graduated from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Reserve Academy, and in 1987, I was hired by the Los Angeles Police Department. While with the LAPD, I worked uniform patrol at Hollywood, Rampart, Southwest, and Northeast divisions. I did 3 tours in narcotics, 2 of them as an undercover officer, 1 as posing as a high school student, the real 21 Jump Street. I created relationships with some of the worst criminals California has to offer. And unfortunately, we know we have a lot of people in this state that are hardcore convicts. I was cooking crack cocaine with them in a crack house in Pacoima. Months later, arresting them and applying federal statutes to their charges. During my tenure with LAPD, I received over 50 commendations from acts of bravery and letters of appreciation from citizens. I've also been a lifelong entrepreneur since I was a child. During my ventures as an entrepreneur, I've gone broke twice. I'm sure some of you can understand what that means. We had to sell our home, our cars, yes, our toys. I remember buying a $500 truck in the recycler. Is that still around, by the way, the recycler? And this truck leaked oil, and I carried this pan with me. And I would put the pan underneath the car so I wouldn't drip oil on the street. Yes, I am environmentally conscious. I initially was embarrassed of my condition at the time when I lost everything. But I reminded myself, as I always did, don't give up. Don't give up. I never declared bankruptcy. I did not blame anyone. Though there was plenty of blame to go around at the end, I was in charge. It was my final call. It was my fault. Unlike what we hear from Washington often. You guys know what that means, right? I always remind myself that we lived in the United States where we had the freedoms to both succeed and, yes, even fail. That I would never give up, and I would continue to push forward. So instead of working 8 or 10 hours or crying about it and complaining, I worked 14 and 16 hours, 7 days a week, and my wife can attest to this. Yes, there were times that she would get angry. When are you coming home? I was able to recover each time within 12 to 18 months. I have no idea where you go for a government handout, and nor do I ever want to know where you go to a government handout. Each time learning a valuable lesson. My life has been so diverse. It's what makes my run for office so unique. I am not a career politician. As a matter of fact, I am not a politician. I've been a bodyguard to some of the biggest names in show business, yes, even at my size. I've been a technical advisor on television shows. I've had business partners whose political views were completely opposite of mine. However, still, we had a mission and a mission to accomplish, and we did. While showing them bit by bit that their views were more in line with mine. I know Democrats who are really good people. I know Republicans. I know Republicans who are really good people. Good people, despite their differences, need to be able to communicate and negotiate to accomplish a mission and objectives for the common good of our country. President Ronald Reagan was a master of this approach. What is wrong with Washington today? I am the broker of Quantum Realtors, owner, a small boutique real estate firm. I sit on the advisory board of a major international bank. Recently, I was awarded the #2 agent in the country by the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. I'm also a member of the President Ronald Reagan Debt 597 Marine Corps League, Ventura County. As Mark said, I'm an active philanthropist with emphasis on veteran causes like Wounded Warrior and Semper Fi Fund and many others. Now that you've heard a peek to my past, you'll have an understanding of where I stand on the issues. National security. The Reagan Doctrine, peace through strength, should be a critical component of our defense strategy. To avoid wars by keeping our military technically advanced and so strong that those who would cause harm against us would think twice. It also means that the United States should always deal with foreign policy with honesty and a strong unified voice. Incidents like Benghazi, which had an incoherent, dishonest response from our government, should never, ever be allowed to happen again. These type of incidents encourage our enemies, and worse, sends a strong signal to those currently serving in our foreign military, in the foreign service, our military intelligence agencies, the CIA, and our diplomats, that there's a very good possibility their government will not be there when they need them. This includes taking care of our veterans. Weakening the military and our intelligence agencies during times of peace and drawdowns has proven reckless time after time. Research and development in the areas of missile defense, biological, EMP, nuclear defense, and cyber terrorism should be ramped up. Sharing our technologies, even with our allies, should be scrutinized and reevaluated. Too often our technologies find themselves in the wrong hands. Government waste and fraud must be sought out and exposed with fierce prosecution of those involved. Could we all agree on that? The American taxpayer must have a trust of our national security apparatus. I'm going to have a little water. Our tax code is about 74,000 pages long today. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent every year by people and business just trying to figure it out. If you've ever called an IRS agent on the phone, they'll tell you they don't even know the information themselves. Armies of lobbyists and accountants earn a living trying to avoid taxes. We need a tax code that is simple, understandable, and fair. We need a tax code that stops encouraging American companies to leave our country and instead brings them back home, bringing good-paying jobs back to America. All energy sources should be on the table. My approach is very, very simple. Is it safe? Is it affordable? Is it sustainable? Let's not pick winners and losers. Our district and our country needs energy to sustain jobs. I'm going to ensure I have jobs in mind when addressing our energy needs. Imagine an America who no longer imports and instead exports energy. What would that do to our economy, our national security, and especially our job growth? Our past policies have been, at best, dysfunctional. It's time we find a common sense solution. And that's what really my platform is all about, common sense. Our education system is a mess and has been for decades. There are great educators doing great things out there with our children, but we cannot shy away from the gaps. Our government needs to recognize that one size fits all does not work. States and local communities should have control and a say in their children's education. It is critical that schools and parents partner up on the education of their children. It is critical that school systems and its employees be held accountable. It is critical that parents and their children also be held accountable. We should also assist those collecting an education paycheck who are not teaching. Look for a new career without union obstruction. However, we should reward those teachers that go that extra mile for excellence. Crime, it is my specialty. And some may say, you're running for Congress, you don't have to worry about that, that's not your concern. Not me. I'm different. I grew up in it. I was part of it. I fought it. I was victimized by it. Why do we tolerate criminal gangs and drug dealers on our streets? The human cost to our communities, our families, is sad and disgusting. This cancer is spreading into our district. It must be stopped. However, we must first acknowledge the truth that it's here. We must not allow political correctness to hamper our efforts. I intend to be a hands-on representative in assisting law enforcement agencies and communities in combating this cancer, in addition to starting a no-cost mentoring program for those troubled youth. My experience in this area will be invaluable to our district. Obamacare. It speaks for itself. It's about government control, nothing less. The fact that the IRS is part of the Obamacare program should send chills down your spine. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's an American issue. What else has to happen? What else has to happen for this administration and its supporters to admit this is not what was sold to the American public? In conclusion, I want to talk about what I've experienced in the last 2-3 months. The last several months, I met members of our party. This is what I've learned. There are 3 groups. Those who believe it's their way or the highway, they will be on the losing side, always. Then there are the group that's there for the right reasons, who really care about our district, our state, and our country, who are selfless Americans who do it for love of country and community. Then I've met, unfortunately, with members of the machine. Politicians and support personnel who are part of an apparatus for their friends and themselves, who cut deals behind closed doors, support each other, not because they believe in each other, because they owe that person or their friend a favor. When I hear them speak, I do not hear them say anything about our country or the American citizen, or even the party. It's all about themselves and their friends and their political alliances. Folks, political cronyism is alive and well. It is part of our national problem. Recently, I was told by a former member of Congress, Rafael, you don't have legislative experience. I replied, maybe what we need in Washington is less legislators and more real people with real common sense approaches to solving problems. I've been told I need to smile more often. I believe we need a cleansing in both parties so we can get back to the basics. My opponents, both, are part of this machine. When they speak, their words may sound agreeable to most of us. Those words are often empty rhetoric, placed carefully to gain support. Where would they be without their political jobs?
That's right.
I don't need this job. I'm taking a 70-80% pay cut when I win. I'm doing it for my family and for yours. On paper, my opponents, they look great. They all have all the political endorsements and embellishments of their life experiences. It's really interesting to read their bios. I wear a badge of honor with the fact that I don't have a long list of endorsements. The only endorsements I really care about is you, the American people. Why am I running? It may sound like a cliche. Simply stated, for our families, for our community, for our country. I have a deep, deep respect for this country and its freedoms. I am an optimist. I know that we can be that shining city on top of the hill again. As President Reagan stated, our lights are dim right now, but together we can make it bright again. It's time for real change with real people. If you are truly, truly disgusted with career politicians, please support my campaign. God bless you all. Thank you for coming.